Hey, how's it going, everyone? I just want to do a video where I'm going to paste a couple videos at the end of this little preamble piece, but I just wanted to sort of cue them up, kind of explain why I'm doing the video and what's the point of it. But the first one is a snippet from a pastor, Steven Anderson, who's an American pastor, fairly well known on YouTube, has quite a few subs. Let's just see how big his following is. He has 120,000 subs on YouTube, which is, it's pretty significant for somebody who preaches fairly controversial topics. And he has a church, I believe it's called Faithful Word Baptist in Arizona. And so he is not your run-of-the-mill pastor in America because he's a Holocaust denier, or in the very least, questions and challenges the narrative of the Holocaust, that that many Jewish people were killed, speaks openly about freely against the Jews and all that. Not extreme, but he definitely speaks out against their banking cartel, or I've heard him mention that at least a few times. And he preaches America's Babylon. He would be one of the more mainstream pastors that I've heard that explicitly states that in his teaching. And that's not common. I would say the biggest group that does teach that are the Hebrews, and I got that from them. And I think for more and more of us, it's obvious, it's not funny, but it's just, it's obvious that Babylon that's being described in Jeremiah and Mystery Babylon that's being described in the book of Revelation are the same. And they both fit America, perfectly. And I'm going to do a more detailed lesson probably today, going through Jeremiah 50 and 51, to just put it out there to people, to get them to think about the possibility that we're living in very, very biblical times, prophetic times, and what could take place very, very soon. And this is not fear-mongering by any means, but it's hard to ignore things that are going on in the news right now that don't make sense unless they're Bible prophecy, or they don't make sense to me unless they're Bible prophecy. And I just put it out there as food for thought for others to potentially brace themselves for what God is about to do. But I wanted to use this clip as, to me, more and more motivation that these things are going to happen. In my opinion, when things like the mark of the beast, or America being Babylon, or just even talking about the news, like just basic things, when I cannot talk to people about things that are going on, and why does Iran hate us all of a sudden? No one knows, no one wants to talk about it in the church and out of the church. To me, then that's either they're just really busy, or whatever, or just there's something else going on. And this is what I'm proposing, is something else, like I said earlier, that this is Bible prophecy. Iran now jawboning us, and Trump going back and forth on Twitter, either that's just completely ridiculous, and they're just reporting on something that's completely irrelevant, or there is something going on, some kind of conflict that is brewing. And again, I wouldn't put it past the media to report on things that are completely useless. But we would have to think that if they were reporting on something that is completely fake and totally fake beef, then why would they be doing that? We'd have to wonder what's their purpose for that. So to me, it is actually fake beef in the sense that God is orchestrating this. Iran doesn't hate us kind of all of a sudden, in line with the economy slowing down, in accelerating in Iran, but definitely the world economy. The world economies are slowing for sure, and America is no different. And the Bible in Revelation puts America's economy at the forefront of the end times, because that is the thing that's going to, when Mystery Babylon's economy crumbles, is when we can be assured that we are indeed in the end times. So it matters to know about things about finance and economic things and all that kind of stuff. So it's important to pay attention to that. So all these things, I suggest to you all that it's not a coincidence, And in fact, we are very likely living in prophetic times. But when people are not talking about these kind of things, in particular the church, so the mainstream church is pretty clear now that they're just completely like just actors, and zombies. Like they're not literally, forget about what's going on with Iran. They're not talking about anything, economic or central banking or chemtrails or, stuff with food, all the different, evil that's on the world right now that, literally could fill up hours and hours of live streams of all the different evils, even homosexuality. You'll get very, very carefully worded responses to that. And I was watching Ravi Zacharias respond to that earlier, a brief clip of him answering a question about that. And it's like he was like reading a poem. He just did not want to say God hates it. That's just what it is. No one hates it as much as God does, so we can say, we have people in our life who, or in our family who struggle with that or whatever, but, that's, we're allowed to take that stance because that's our human response. But God hates it. The God of the Bible hates it, and then that's just what it is. And there's no other real explanation needed beyond that. If that is the real God, if the God of the Bible is the one that created everything, he doesn't even necessarily even need to explain to us why. We obviously know why and have good reasons to know why that's something that he would not like, just from a very practical like health perspective. But even if it weren't the case, he's just allowed to like and dislike whatever he wants. And so that was not in the answer. So I think even that topic, the church is completely sold out, and there's just, the list goes on. So the mainstream church is completely gone. I find, this is why I wanted to mention Steven Anderson, is that even somebody who's on the forefront of a few conspiracy theories, he's a ball earther still, and does not talk about the RFID microchip or the mark of the beast in any detail at all that I've seen. And so he's not there, on the, to me, the two biggest ones. But, he pushes a few, like America is Babylon. But the funny thing about this, he totally dilutes it in this video that you'll see right after this snippet. And he still puffs America's chest as if America is just going to like win, and succeed and all that kind of stuff. Even though the book of Jeremiah and Revelation speak of this place called Babylon, and in Revelation, it's referred to as Babylon and Mystery Babylon, as being burned, and just destroyed because it's modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. And so even pastors who are actually teaching America's Babylon are still backpedaling off of it and diluting it. And so to me, either this is just really strange, that somebody would do that, or it's Bible prophecy, and these are just false prophets and all that kind of stuff. Because to me, it just does not make sense why so many people would just not state the obvious. Like, why are we not allowed to talk about Iran and why they hate us? Why are we not allowed to talk about, the evils of central banking and the economy, even just amongst like people, like amongst just regular people? I find that I struggle being able to like speak openly and honestly about this kind of stuff. And so there's got to be a reason for it, in my opinion. And then so it's becoming very, very obvious to me now that it's very, very likely that this is for prophetic purpose. And so he, in this video, starts, the whole video is a breakdown of Jeremiah 50, which he does, can't remember in this clip or after, explain to his congregation that, only America fits the description. It's no other place in the world fits the description in Jeremiah and also in Revelation 17 and Revelation 18. That's just obvious. If a person out there is teaching the Bible in any seriousness, in particular anything related to the end times, and does not teach that America is Mystery Babylon, if we're living in the end times right now, to me they're completely lost. They have no idea what's going on. I don't even know what to say. There's no other place that fits the characteristics of Jeremiah and Revelation than America. It's modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. That's not even a question at all for people here in America and people on the world stage. And so the second clip after Anderson, I'm going to put a clip from the Prime Minister of Iran being interviewed, and him explaining and speaking contrary to what Steven Anderson claims, that America is Babylon and to be destroyed. Anderson still says that, America has the greatest military might, Islam's going to be destroyed, the West is so strong, and all that kind of stuff. And then the Prime Minister of Iran paints a very, very different picture of the technological advancements that have been made by Iran. And they're not somebody to play around with, and again, we would have to believe that if that is true, and he's not just bluffing, that God is behind it. The Bible says in Revelation that God sets all these other nations to turn against the whore, which is America, and they send missiles our way, and Jeremiah says that they won't miss, so they'll be guided. They'll have technology in them that will allow them to not miss their mark. And so it's a very, very bold prophecy, obviously, because it's massive, and clearly an earth that has gone through this type of quote unquote end game will not heal itself. It would take many, many years, if that, even to recover from this type of devastation. So really, once one of these quote unquote nukes are sent in any direction, anywhere, puts us in the end times, because again, it's very difficult to backpedal from that, just strictly from a practical perspective to what it does to the earth, but also just how interconnected the global economy is, and just what it would do to the entire world. And so there is, in my opinion, this sort of calm before the storm, which I can sort of sense is happening here in America, where it's very clear that things are slowing down, people are not spending as much, and all that kind of stuff. And so the Bible does say that there will be famines first, and then Mystery Babylon will be destroyed. So I'm just putting this out there just so people are not surprised, just in case that this actually does happen, and happen fairly soon. And so again, Revelation 18:7 says, "How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit as a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow." That verse just echoes with me that that is the exact way to describe America. And even Steven Anderson, who is preaching about America's destruction, is still saying that in Revelation 18, that we will sit as a queen and see no sorrow. And he's saying that America is Babylon. And so this, to me, again, is just really weird. Could either be very strange, and he's just very, very misguided, or it's prophecy. This will not be taught in mainstream churches, because it wouldn't happen if that were the case. People would just, if the majority of the people in the church knew this and suspected that we were America, and asked, why do they not like us? What can we do? Like, what is the actual reason that Iran is starting to dislike us and want to fling, missiles our way? We would be able to use our sort of collective lobbying power as the quote unquote church to prevent this kind of thing from happening, because no one wants missiles sent their way from the other side of flat Earth. That's insane. And so, that's why, in my opinion, if this is true, it makes sense that it's a very grassroots thing. And the Bible says that you have to humble yourself like a child. You have to go amongst the places that, not everybody will go. These type of things would definitely not be taught in Joel Osteen type churches, and definitely not other mainstream churches. And it appears that it's even being perverted and diluted in even quote unquote conspiracy theory type churches like Steven Anderson's Faithful Word Baptist. So it's hidden amongst the Hebrews. The Hebrews are bringing it out, and not many people want to listen to so-called Negroes on the street ranting and raving about America's Babylon, death to Babylon. No one wants to listen to these individuals, but in my opinion, the truth is hidden in them. And though they're not perfect, and in my opinion, their leadership is full of Masons, they are the ones that brought this to my attention. And obviously, people like Steven Anderson reaffirm the plausibility of it, but just hearing him preach, and being a ball earther also is a ding against him. But there are other things that he won't kind of go there. And the Hebrews, many of them are ball earthers as well, but the sort of scriptural evidence of this type of a thing is very, very difficult to argue, just simply based on the term sodomy. In my opinion, just the term sodomy itself is proof we're in the end times, because we would just have to look at that term coming from, the Bible, and then in modern day, where would we look at the source for that, in the world, that philosophy, that wine, that indoctrination, and it's America. And so that alone gives us a major clue as to who fits the bill for Babylon in Jeremiah and in Mystery Babylon in Revelation. So, again, it's crazy to think, that literally missiles will be sent our way, because I live here in America, but, I put it out there as something to consider and read these chapters and, obviously pray and fast where appropriate to receive guidance from God. But it's becoming very, very clear that America is being groomed for a judgment. Just take a look at these two videos and leave any comments or questions below. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.
The Jews have their own false religion. They have their own role to play in the end times. The Muslims are going to play a role in the end times, obviously. They make up a huge portion of this world. But neither of those groups are Babylon. Why? Because the Muslims aren't ruling the world today. The Muslims are not in power. They don't rule the world. They have their neck of the woods and whatever. But you know what? They're never going to rule this world. I believe that they're going to be destroyed. I believe that there's probably going to be a World War III eventually where the Muslims are going to be wiped out, because the West is just more powerful than the Muslims ever thought of being, period. The United States has way more power, and all of our allies and everything like that. And I'm not saying that to be proud, because I'm not proud of that at all. I'm just stating it as a fact that, the West could pretty much wipe out the Muslim world whenever they want, because those people don't have the kind of power and armament and technology and intelligence that we have. There, I said it. We're more powerful than them.
My interview with Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. It turned out to be a feisty one. The president seemed to relish the give and take, which produced some startling and surreal moments. He even suggested at one point that Osama bin Laden is living quietly in Washington, D.C., home to the powerful woman he called Iran's enemy. You called Secretary of State Clinton an enemy of Iran. Do you consider President Obama an enemy of Iran as well?
I consider that there is a difference between Mr. Obama and Mrs. Clinton, but I'd like to ask, is Mrs. Clinton a friend of Iran in your opinion, as an American? In your mind, do you think she's a friend of ours?
I believe that Secretary of State Clinton is a friend of the Iranian people. I believe she is opposed to some actions of the Iranian government, specifically the development of nuclear enrichment, which could lead to a weapons program in the future.
Very well. We are friends of the American people. But if the United States stores several thousand nuclear bombs, threatens others, interferes in other countries' affairs, I would say these are actions that we're opposed to. Does that turn us into an enemy of the American people, or the enemy of the wrong policies adopted by some authorities? Is Mrs. Clinton a friend of the Iranian people? I represent the Iranian people.
How are President Obama and Secretary of State Clinton different?
Mrs. Clinton is interested in speedily moving relations with Iran to the point of a clash. Based on the information we possess, Mr. Obama does not have such an opinion. But there's a lot of pressure going around.
I spoke with President Obama in Prague 3 weeks ago now. He said he would push very hard for another round of UN sanctions unless and until Iran comes into compliance with the International Atomic Energy Agency.
No problem. Any measure he takes will be confronted by a position that we will announce.
How so?
We don't have a special friendship with Mr. Obama. We will act the same way as we have been doing so far against hostilities. Don't worry about us. We know how to defend ourselves.
You're not concerned about sanctions, even though it's not just the United States, it's France, it's Great Britain. I spoke with President Medvedev in St. Petersburg. He said now it's time for sanctions against the Iranians as well. Iran is becoming increasingly isolated.
We will not accept something that's being forced upon us. The issue that 3 or 4 countries possess a nuclear bomb and want to prevent the others from its peaceful nuclear energy goals, it is in violation of laws and against justice, and we will not accept it. Therefore, let's put it aside. This is not something that by threatening Iran or putting pressure on Iran will force Iran to change its positions. This is not something that will work. Its time has passed. For them, it is better to cooperate with Iran according to the laws.
But Mr. President, do you understand?
According to justice and on the basis of friendship.
You talk about international law, you talk about principles of justice and friendship. Do you understand how so many in the world community cannot take your statements at face value about nuclear weapons? You say you don't want nuclear weapons when you've refused to comply with the guidelines set out by the International Atomic Energy Agency.
118 member states of the non-aligned movement have declared their support for Iran's position. Don't they count? 57 Islamic countries have supported the Iranian position. Look, Mr. Stephanopoulos, this outlook is wrong. This opinion that some American authorities have are the root cause of the world's problems. That someone who possesses nuclear bombs tells others not to use it for peaceful means.
It's clear from listening to you that you're not concerned about another round of sanctions. But it's also been pretty clear to most observers that if Iran continues on this path, that the state of Israel will take matters into its own hands and take out Iran's nuclear program through military means.
Iran will definitely continue its path. You should not even doubt that we will continue our path.
But aren't you playing with fire? The potential of an Israeli military strike?
Do they want to attack us? They're not a factor in our defense doctrine. We don't even count them.
You don't plan for that at all?
They're finished. The Zionist regime is finished. They can't even manage Gaza. They want to get into a conflict with Iran. Everybody knows about this, and I'm surprised that you as a professional journalist don't know. All world politicians know about it.
So you're not...
The Zionist regime can't manage Gaza. Do they want to get into a conflict with Iran?
One final question. There's a new documentary out that says that Osama bin Laden is living in Tehran. Is Osama bin Laden in Tehran?
Your question is laughable.
Why?
The U.S. government has invaded Afghanistan in order to arrest bin Laden. They probably know where bin Laden is. If they don't know where bin Laden is, why did they invade? First, they invaded. Then they tried to find out where he is. Is that logical? Do you think this is logical?
What I think is that you didn't answer my question. Is he in Tehran or not?
Our position is quite clear. Some journalists have said bin Laden is in Iran. These words don't have legal value. Our position towards Afghanistan and against terrorism is quite clear.
Is it true or not?
Maybe you know, but I don't know.
I'm asking you, you're the president of Iran.
I don't know such a thing. You are giving news which is very strange.
So let me ask it a different way. If you did know that Osama bin Laden was in Tehran, would you show him hospitality? Would you expel him? Would you arrest him?
I heard that Osama bin Laden is in Washington, D.C.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. He's there because he was a previous partner of Mr. Bush. They were colleagues, in fact, in the old days. You know that. They worked together. Mr. bin Laden never cooperated with Iran, but he cooperated with Mr. Bush.
I'll ask one more time and then I'll let you go. If you knew that Osama bin Laden was in Tehran, which you say you don't, if you knew, would you expel him? Would you arrest him? Would you show him hospitality?
Our borders are closed to the illegal entry of anyone. Anyone, whoever that may be. Whether it's the 3 American mountaineers, Mr. bin Laden, or anyone else. The borders are closed. Our position is clear.
But you deny categorically that he's in Tehran today. He is not. Osama bin Laden is not in Tehran today?
Rest assured that he's in Washington. I think there's a high chance he's there.
I don't agree. But thank you for your time, Mr. President.